And now, a Silver Circle presentation.
Officials with Brit Airways.
In 1986, when Scott Thompson sent out resume tapes from his first job at KRCG TV in Jefferson City, Missouri, one of them landed at KJRH in Tulsa.
Live from northeastern Oklahoma's News Center.
The news director there told Scott he wasn't ready for a market of Tulsa's size. Unfazed, a few months later, the same tape, a different news director, and Scott was hired at Channel 2.
Everybody, almost everybody has a yard sign out except you. Is that the wise way to go?
By 1990, he'd crossed the street to KOTV.
He could turn phrases in otherwise routine stories that made them almost magical.
Scott Parks, also new to KOTV in 1990 as news director, was looking for something to set the station apart.
I surveyed the staff and, quickly identified Scott as a guy who could write. He could write well.
Discover the Arkansas River with Emmy Award-winning Oklahoma traveler Scott Thompson.
Parks christened Scott's new assignment the Oklahoma Traveler. Tulsa television was about to change in a most beautiful and heartfelt way.
And that's what sparked my imagination and thought this guy can be the traveling reporter that I've been looking for to do great feature stories a la Curtin or Bob Dotson.
The magic came in long-format storytelling. From the depths of the Atlantic Ocean aboard the Navy's newest submarine,
if you could stand where we do now,
to the tops of Mexican mountains chasing monarch butterflies, on the streets of New York with a washed-up Oklahoma racehorse turned cop, through the rugged back roads of New Zealand and the haunting vistas of Japan. From the grateful Dutch who still remember their American liberators from the Sooner State.
the training took about 6 months. It was done in American planes, sporting American markings, taught by American instructors.
To the flyboys from Britain, now grown gray, who turned back Hitler's Luftwaffe with the skills they learned in Oklahoma.
Once they turned us loose to leave Oklahoma, they really didn't know what they were going to get when they came back, but they knew it was going to be good.
It was better than good. It was captivating.
What do you say, it's happiness or what? We made it.
It was appointment television.
It was like working in a magic factory in some ways.
It was magic, come to life through a television screen.
With the photography and Scott's beautiful words, we would take what would be seemingly ordinary and make it into the most extraordinary of stories.
From across 6 continents, much of the United States, every county in Oklahoma, Scott brought humanity's beating heart to our living rooms and used the beautifully simple power of words as a declaration of decency and pride, virtue and hope.
So I think Scott had a really nice way of bringing these different components of really what makes up America and bringing it right back to the evening news and showing it to you in a way that you probably hadn't thought of before, and then telling it in a way that only Scott could tell it.
And to know that the stories that we did most definitively made differences in people's lives, changed their lives in some cases. Just a simple feature story.
With each dawn that breaks over Oklahoma.
Scott showcased Oklahoma's environment and those working to preserve its land, animals, and plants. He produced scores of primetime specials, tapes of which were sold to the public as a way to raise tens of thousands of dollars for groups like the Nature Conservancy and the Sutton Avian Research Center.
What an absolute full circle that benefited the cause, the environment, the organization that was trying to do good and make a difference in the world. Our stories helped do that, and that really, I think, set them apart.
But we consistently bring up the rear in some very important quality of life rankings, and I have long asked myself why we're satisfied with that.
Scott used his reporting to challenge Oklahomans to work together to lift the state's quality of life, and continues as a strong and visible advocate for Oklahoma's public schools, its students and teachers.
We appreciate Scott as a gifted communicator, storyteller, and a remarkable ambassador for public education.
His image across this state is one of integrity, one of character, one of a moral compass that so often we don't see anymore.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Terry Hood.
And I'm Scott Thompson.
And for more than 25 years of anchoring evening newscast at KOTV, Oklahomans came to know Scott as a trusted friend, a man of principle and common sense who they turned to each night as a much-loved member of their extended family.
I loved co-anchoring with Scott. It was a highlight of my career. It meant a lot to me to be able to be his partner for so many years.
Terry Hood and Scott became the longest-serving anchor team in KOTV's history, side by side for more than 20 years, quickly taking the station to a dominant #1 in the ratings, often as the nation's highest-rated CBS affiliate for late news.
Scott was just a great person to be a co-anchor with, quite frankly. I mean, he was so knowledgeable, he's so funny, he's so interested in everything, and he's also the kind of co-anchor who has your back. And that's hugely important, to have a level of confidence and trust on the set.
Having your back, confidence, and trust. That's what Scott Thompson's broadcast career personifies. Along the way was 7 National Edward R. Murrow Awards, 8 Heartland Emmys, a National Sigma Delta Chi Bronze Medallion for Public Service and Television Journalism, and induction into the Oklahoma Journalism Hall of Fame, and the Heartland Emmy Silver Circle. Scott became the most honored broadcast journalist in the history of Tulsa television. But more noteworthy than even that, he became Tulsa television's soul.
That he did beautiful work, that he made a difference in people's lives, even if it was the person who was sitting at home watching TV for that night. He made an impression on them, sometimes an impression that people have never forgotten. And there's not too many journalists that can say that.
I completely agree with Kathy's evaluation. Good evening, everyone. I'm Bill Perry, member of the Emmy Heartland Board of Governors and a proud member of both the Silver Circle and Gold Circle. It's my pleasure to present our Silver Circle honorees tonight, both of whom hail from this great state of Oklahoma. On behalf of the entire board and all the members of the Heartland Chapter, it's my honor to welcome Scott Thompson into the prestigious Silver Circle.
Thank you, Bill.
Congratulations, Scott.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Well, thank you, Bill, and thank you to the Board of Governors of the Heartland Emmy Chapter for seeing fit to include me with the group of distinguished and accomplished broadcasters who stand forever within the Silver Circle. To spend at least a quarter of a century of one's career in a single market says you're either lousy at climbing up the television news ladder, or your heart was captured by the people and their stories of the place you landed to practice the craft of journalism. And so it was for me. In Tulsa, in northeast Oklahoma, and southeast Kansas, where the signals of KOTV and KJRH carry across the rolling green hills, over the prairie draws and hard luck towns, the forgotten places where a TV camera rarely ventures, I found the most remarkable stories and such kind and decent people who shared them with me. And in those passed by places, side by side with the most talented and artistic photojournalists, those stories came to life. Stories of the ordinary lives being lived all around us, unnoticed mostly, but with the power to motivate and inspire us. Yet television news so often forgets about them. When someone would tell me they couldn't understand why I wanted to hear their story to put them on television, theirs was the story I most wanted to tell. My greatest compliments came when an interview subject would tell me when we finished, "Having you here is like having a member of the family stop by to sit on the couch and visit. I even forgot about that big camera over there." Theirs are the stories of rugged heart and overwhelming compassion, of kindness and caring and determination that's unique to our shared humanity. And it's the job of the journalist to use the power and majesty of our beautiful language to explain why they matter, to find and tell the stories of what it means to be human, with all our foibles and faults and goodness and grace. It's not about us. Journalism is about them. When I was talking with a station back home in St. Louis about bringing my reporting work there in the days before the avalanche of social media buried us in Twitter and Instagram must-dos, they wanted to know why there were no stand-ups in my stories. You've got to have stand-ups, they said. That's the formula. I replied, I rarely do stand-ups because the story's not about me. It's about them. I'd rather fill the time with them. They didn't seem to get it. and I stayed in Tulsa and at KOTV, a decision I made on many other occasions as well. It's not about us, it's about them. When I was a little boy, I think beginning in the 1st or 2nd grade at Webster Elementary School in Collinsville, Illinois, I would mount my metal Batman lunchbox on my right shoulder, and my pretend microphone was in my left hand, and I would spend recess playing TV news. Yeah, I know that's weird. Asking the girls playing jump rope, what are you doing? How long have you been doing it? Why are you doing it? Once, tired of what they said might bothering them, they ran to the playground monitor, and soon Mrs. Marks was pulling me along by my shirt collar to stand against the brick wall in timeout. As she dragged me along, I turned my lunchbox to her, thrust my pretend microphone in her face, and demanded, "Why are you doing this to me? Don't you know I have freedom of the press?" She didn't. That little boy on the playground couldn't imagine all the places the dreams born of that lunchbox would take him. 6 continents worth of unforgettable experiences, from presidents to paupers. The people, their stories, their hopes and dreams, their pride and joy and fears and tears, their humanity, graciously shared with me. That little lunchbox and all the dreams it held has carried me to remarkable places. I'm humbled to set it down tonight with great pride and gratitude here inside the Silver Circle. Again, thank you so very much.